Noah's hand dropped from the gun grip the second she turned around. 3 weeks of dust and loneliness and sleeping with one eye open. None of that prepared him for Lena Whitfield standing in his kitchen like she belonged there. Her voice cut through the silence he'd worn like armor. "I missed you, Cowboy." 4 words. That's all it took to crack something he'd spent years building. His throat closed, because missing someone meant they mattered, and mattering meant risk. She smiled gentle as the lamplight behind her and Noah realized the most dangerous thing waiting for him at home wasn't emptiness anymore, it was this. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to the channel and stay with us until the end. Comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's get back to Noah and Lena. Noah didn't move. Couldn't. The bread smell hit him first. Real bread. Not the hard biscuits he'd been choking down for 3 weeks. Then the warmth. Then her. Lena Whitfield stood at his stove like she'd been there every night of his life. Wooden spoon in hand, hair pulled back simple and practical. She didn't look startled. Didn't apologize. Just watched him with those steady eyes that had always seen too much. "You gonna stand there all night?" she asked. Noah's jaw worked. "Thought I locked that door." "You did." She turned back to the pot, stirring slow. "Spare keys still under the porch step. Same place it's been for 5 years." He should have been angry. Should have demanded answers. But his legs carried him forward instead, and he dropped his saddlebag by the door with a thud that said more than words could. "When'd you get here?" His voice came out rougher than he meant. "This afternoon." She ladled stew into a bowl, set it on the table. "Saw you were due back. Figured you'd be hungry." "Figured. Was I wrong?" Noah looked at the table set for one cloth napkin, folded neat steam, rising from food that someone had actually cared enough to make. His throat tightened again. "No." He pulled out the chair, sat. "You weren't wrong." Lena poured coffee black as midnight and settled into the chair across from him. Didn't take food for herself. Just wrapped her hands around her own cup and waited. The silence stretched, but it wasn't the kind that suffocated. It was patient, generous. It let him take the first bite without explaining why his hands shook slightly when he lifted the spoon. The stew hit his tongue, and something in his chest loosened. "Good?" she asked. "Yeah." He ate 3 more bites before he trusted himself to talk again. "How'd you know I'd be back tonight? Sam at the livery mentioned you'd sent word. Said you'd left Cheyenne 2 days ago." She tilted her head. "Math wasn't hard. And you just decided to be here." "I decided you shouldn't come home to cold and dark." Her voice stayed level, matter of fact, but her fingers tightened on the cup. "Nobody should." Noah set his spoon down, looked at her, really looked. Lena was younger than him by maybe 5 years, but her eyes carried weight. She'd lost her husband to fever 2 winters back, and the town had watched her survive it with the kind of quiet strength that made people uncomfortable. Because grief was supposed to be loud. Hers had been stone silent and relentless as winter. "Why?" he asked. "Why what? Why you?" She met his gaze without flinching. "Because I know what it's like." What's like coming home to nothing?" The words landed between them simple and devastating. Noah picked up his spoon again, but he wasn't tasting the food anymore. They ate in silence. Not awkward, just present. When he finished, Lena took his bowl without asking and washed it at the basin. Her movements were efficient, practiced like she'd mapped out the rhythm of his kitchen in an afternoon. "You don't have to do that," Noah said. "I know." "Then why are you—" She didn't answer right away. Dried the bowl, set it on the shelf where it belonged. When she finally turned around, her expression was softer than he'd ever seen it. "Because someone should." Noah stood. The chair scraped loud against the floor. He wanted to say something, "Thank you maybe," or "Why now," or "Please don't make me need this," but the words tangled in his chest and wouldn't come. Lena grabbed her shawl from the hook by the door. "Wait." His voice stopped her. "How'd you even know I'd want this?" "I didn't." She pulled the shawl around her shoulders. But I knew I needed to. Needed to. Yeah? She smiled, sad and honest. Turns out cooking for someone else helps. Makes the quiet less heavy. She opened the door. Cold air rushed in, sharp and immediate. Lena. She paused. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Cowboy. She stepped into the night. I might make a habit of this. The door closed behind her. Noah stood alone in his kitchen, cleaner than he'd left it, warmer than it had been in months, smelling like bread and coffee, and something that felt dangerous. He touched the table where she'd sat. The wood was still warm. Morning came hard and bright. Noah woke to hammering, not in his head, but outside. He pulled on his boots and stumbled to the porch, squinting against sun that felt personal in its assault. Lena was on her knees in his yard, fixing the busted step he'd been meaning to repair for 6 months. "What the hell are you doing?" he called. She didn't look up. "What's it look like?" "It looks like you're fixing my porch." "Then you got eyes that work." She drove another nail home, clean and sure. "Step was rotted through. You're lucky you didn't break your neck coming home last night." Noah descended slowly, careful of the boards he'd learned to avoid by memory. "You don't need to. I know what I don't need to do." She sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. "I'm doing it anyway." "Why?" "Because it needs doing." She looked up at him, and the morning sun caught the gold in her brown hair. "And because I'm good at it." He couldn't argue with that. The step looked better than it had in years. "Where'd you learn carpentry?" he asked. "My father." She went back to work. "Before he drank himself to death. Taught me every practical thing he knew before the whiskey took the rest." Noah settled onto the porch rail, watching her hands move with the kind of competence that came from years of necessity. Most women in town kept their capabilities quiet, dressed them up in needlework and hymns. Lena had never bothered with the pretense. "You eat yet?" he asked. "No." "I'll make coffee." "You know how? I've been batching it for 5 years. I know how." "That's not the same as knowing how to make it good." "Fair point." He stood. "I'll make it anyway." He did. And when he brought 2 cups out to the porch, Lena had finished the step and moved on to the loose railing post. She took the coffee without stopping. Her work sipped it made a face. "That bad?" he asked. "I've had worse." She set the cup down carefully. "But not recently." "I'll work on it." "Don't." She smiled. "I kind of like knowing what I'm better at." Something warm moved through Noah's chest. Not attraction exactly, but something adjacent. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. The sense that someone across from you spoke the same language of surviving without admitting you were tired. "You always this honest?" he asked. "Usually more." She tested the rail, nodded satisfaction. "But I'm trying to be polite." "Don't bother on my account." "Noted." She picked up the hammer, considered the porch boards. "Your whole foundation's settling. You know that." "Yeah." "You planning to fix it?" "Eventually." "Eventually means never." She met his eyes. "You know that too." Noah drank his terrible coffee and didn't argue because she was right. Eventually was the word you used when you'd stopped caring if things fell apart slow. "I could help," Lena said. "If you wanted." "Why would you want to?" "Because I need a project." She said it simple, but her voice carried weight. "And you need someone who gives a damn if your house falls down." "That's so." "Yeah." She stood brushing dirt from her skirt. "That's so." She gathered her tools, efficient and unhurried, and Noah felt something close to panic rise in his throat. Because she was leaving again. And the quiet that had felt peaceful 30 minutes ago suddenly felt like a threat. "Lena," she stopped. "You coming back? Do you want me to?" The question hung there, dangerous and patient. Noah had spent 5 years learning how to want nothing, how to make loneliness feel like choice instead of sentence. But standing on his half-fixed porch with morning sun harsh on his face and coffee going cold in his hand, he couldn't find the lie fast enough. "Yeah," he said, "I do." Her smile was small and real. "Then I'll be back." She was. The next afternoon, Lena showed up with lumber and a list. She didn't knock, just walked in like the house had been waiting for her, spread plans across his table, and started talking about joists and foundation like he'd asked for the education. "You listening?" she asked. Noah looked up from the paper. "Trying to figure out when I agreed to this. You didn't. I decided for you." She pointed at a sketch. "This wall's load-bearing. If we don't shore it up before winter, you'll have bigger problems than a cold house." "We?" "You got someone else offering." He didn't. "What's this gonna cost?" "Materials couple hundred. Labor?" She shrugged. "Free." "Free." "I told you, I need the project. And I'm just supposed to accept that. Unless you've got pride too big to let someone help." She looked at him direct. "Do you?" Noah wanted to say yes. Wanted to tell her he'd managed alone just fine, and didn't need fixing by a woman with sad eyes and too much time. But the words wouldn't come, because the truth was simpler and harder. "No," he admitted. "I don't." "Good." Lena rolled up the plans. "We start tomorrow. Dawn." "Dawn." "Problem?" "I've got work in town." "So do it after." She headed for the door. "I'll be here when you get back." And she was. Every day that week, Noah came home to hammering. To Lena on a ladder, or under the porch, or covered in sawdust, working through problems he'd let pile up because solving them meant admitting he planned to stay. They didn't talk much at first. Just worked parallel him on whatever she needed lifted, or held her on the actual fixing. But the silence between them shifted. Became something shared instead of separate. On the 5th day, Noah made stew. It was terrible. Lena ate it anyway, chewing slow and diplomatic. "You trying to poison me?" she asked finally. "Accident if I am." "Good to know." She pushed her bowl away, still half full. "Tomorrow I'm bringing real food." "My cooking's not that bad." "Noah." She looked at him with something close to affection. "Your cooking's that bad." He laughed, actually laughed. The sound startled them both. "Haven't heard that in a while," Lena said soft. "Haven't had reason." "You do now." The words settled between them, gentle and impossible to take back. Noah cleared the bowls to have something to do with his hands. "Why'd you really come here that first night?" he asked, back-turned. Lena was quiet long enough that he thought she might not answer. "Because I was lonely," she said finally. "And I thought maybe you were too." Noah set the bowls down. Turned around. Lena was still at the table, hands folded, looking at him with eyes that had seen their share of empty houses and cold dinners and nights that stretched too long. "I was," he admitted. "You still are." "Maybe less now." "Yeah," she smiled. "Me too." 2 weeks in the work was mostly done. The porch stood solid. The foundation was shored. The roof had new shingles where rain had been getting through. Noah's house looked cared for in a way it hadn't since before the war. Lena showed up anyway, this time with food but no tools. "We finished?" Noah asked from the doorway. "The work is." She held up a basket. "But I made too much chicken. Thought you might help me with it." "That's so." "Unless you're busy." He wasn't. Hadn't been busy in years, not the kind of busy that mattered. But he stood there anyway, some part of him still testing whether this was real or whether she'd disappear the second he admitted he wanted her to stay. "I'm not busy," he said. They ate on the porch, fixed now solid under their weight. The sun was setting slow and orange, painting everything the color of old gold. Lena had brought actual plates this time. Real silverware cloth napkins, like they were people who deserved nice things. "This is good," Noah said around a mouthful of chicken. "Better than your stew." "That's a low bar." She laughed, and the sound did something to the evening, made it feel less temporary. Like maybe this wasn't just one night, but the beginning of a lot of them. "Can I ask you something?" Noah set his plate aside. "Depends what it is." "Why me?" Lena tilted her head. "What do you mean? You could have picked anyone in town to feed or fix for. Half the ranchers would kill for your help, but you showed up here." He gestured at the house at himself. "Why?" She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was careful. "Because you didn't ask." "Didn't ask. Everyone else in town wants something from me. Sympathy or labor or a reason to feel better about their own lives, because look, there's poor Lena still grieving." She looked out at the darkening sky. "But you never asked. You just let me be sad without trying to fix it." I didn't know what to say. That's why it mattered. She turned to him. "You didn't say anything. And that was the kindest thing anyone had done in 2 years." Noah felt something shift in his chest, understanding maybe, or recognition. That loneliness wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was just the absence of people who knew when to shut up. "I'm not good at this," he admitted. "Good at what?" "People." "Neither am I." She smiled. "But we're doing okay so far." "Yeah." He picked up his plate again. "We are." They finished eating as stars came out. Lena stood to leave, and Noah felt that familiar panic rise, the sense that once she walked away, the warmth would go with her. "Lena." She paused at the porch steps. "You coming back tomorrow? Do you want me to?" This time he didn't hesitate. "Yeah." "Then I will." She did. And the day after. And the day after that. A rhythm formed, steady as breath. Lena would show up in the afternoon with food or a small repair, or sometimes just conversation. Noah would come home from work expecting emptiness, and find her instead sitting on his porch, or reading in his chair, or humming while she cooked. He stopped trying to figure out why, stopped questioning whether he deserved it, just accepted that for the first time in years coming home meant something other than enduring. But acceptance brought its own danger, because the more he got used to her presence, the more he noticed when she was quiet. And lately Lena had been quiet a lot. One evening, Noah found her on the porch, staring at nothing, face drawn in a way that made his stomach tighten. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing." "Lena." She looked up at him, and her eyes were tired. "I got offered something." His blood went cold. "Offered what?" "A job in Denver." She folded her hands in her lap. "Better pay, actual opportunity, real life instead of this dying town." Noah sat down hard on the step. "When?" "They want me by end of month. 3 weeks. 3 weeks and she'd be gone." "You taking it?" The question came out flat, emotionless, because if he let any feeling through it would be too much. "I don't know." Her voice was small. "I should. It's the smart thing. But I don't want to." "Why not?" Lena looked at him, and something in her expression broke. "Because I'd be leaving. People leave all the time. I'd be leaving you." The words hit him square in the chest. Noah stared at her, this woman who'd walked into his life without permission and made herself necessary without asking if he wanted that burden. "You don't owe me anything," he managed. "I know that." She stood, moved to the railing, gripped it like it might hold her steady. "But I came here because I was lonely. And now I'm not. And I don't know what to do with that." Noah stood too, crossed the porch in 3 steps, stopped close enough to see the freckles on her cheeks, the gray starting at her temples, the way her jaw set when she was trying not to cry. "Don't go," he said. "Noah, don't go." His voice cracked. He heard it crack, didn't care, because he'd spent 5 years pretending he didn't need anyone, and 3 weeks learning he'd been wrong. Lena's eyes searched his face. "Why?" "Because I'd miss you." The admission felt like glass in his throat. "And I don't want to go back to how it was before. Before me." "Yeah." She reached up, touched his face, gentle questioning. Noah didn't pull away. "I don't know if I can stay," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to stay for me." He covered her hand with his. "I'm asking you to stay for you. Because you're not lonely here anymore either." Lena's breath hitched. For a long moment they stood there on his newly fixed porch, the evening going dark around them. Everything they weren't saying louder than what they were. Finally she stepped back. "I need to think," she said. "Okay. I'll let you know." "Okay." She left without looking back. And Noah stood alone on his porch, sturdy, now solid, fixed by hands that had made his house feel like home, wondering if wanting something was enough reason to fight for it, or if letting go was the kinder choice. 3 days passed without her. Noah counted them like a man counting wounds after a fight, each one worse than the last. He came home to silence that used to feel normal and now felt like punishment. The house was still warm from her work. Still smelled faintly of the bread she'd made last week, and that made it worse. He didn't go looking for her, didn't show up at her door demanding answers. Because if she'd decided to leave, he needed to hear it from her when she was ready, not drag it out of her like confession. But on the 4th day he broke. He found her at the general store, arms full of supplies, talking to Martha Hendricks in that polite voice people used when they wanted to end a conversation, but couldn't figure out how. "Noah." Lena's eyes widened when she saw him. "Need to talk to you," he said. Martha looked between them, eyebrows climbing toward her hairline. "Well, Thanks, Martha." Lena handed her purchases to the clerk, grabbed Noah's arm and pulled him outside before the whole town could witness whatever was about to happen. They made it halfway down the street before she stopped breathing hard. "You can't just—" "3 days, Lena. I told you I needed to think. And I've been letting you." He kept his voice level, even though everything in him wanted to shout. "But I can't do this. Can't come home every night wondering if you've already left. I haven't decided." "Then what are you waiting for?" Her jaw tightened. "I don't know." "That's not good enough." "Well, it's all I have right now." She stepped closer, voice dropping. "You think this is easy? You think I'm not terrified?" "Of what?" "Of staying." The words came out raw. "Of choosing this and having it fall apart. Of being that stupid again." Noah felt like he'd been hit. "That stupid. James promised me forever." Her eyes went hard. "And then he got sick and died and left me with nothing but a house I couldn't afford and a town that looked at me like I was tragic. So yeah, Noah, I'm scared of staying for someone who might not stay back." "I'm not going anywhere." Neither was he. She turned away. Until he did. The fight went out of Noah all at once. Because she was right. Death didn't ask permission. Loss didn't care about promises. And he was asking her to risk everything on a future neither of them could guarantee. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Lena's shoulders sagged. "I know. But I'm still asking." "Why?" She turned back and her face was desperate. "Why does it have to be me?" "Because it is." He stepped closer. "Because I've spent 5 years not needing anyone. And then you showed up. And now I do. Need me. Yeah. That's not fair." "I know." She made a sound between a laugh and a sob. "You're an ass." "I know that too." For a long moment they just stood there on the street. People walking past and pretending not to stare, the afternoon sun beating down on both of them like judgment. "I have to give them an answer by Friday," Lena said finally. "That's 2 days." "I know. Will you at least come by before you decide?" His throat felt tight. "Let me make you dinner. Something that won't poison you." Her smile was small and sad. "You sure about that?" "No, but I'll try." "Okay." She touched his arm, brief and gentle. "Tomorrow night." Tomorrow. She walked away, and Noah watched her go, trying not to calculate how many more times he'd get to see her walk away before it became permanent. He burned the first attempt at dinner. The second one wasn't much better. By the time Lena knocked on his door the next evening, Noah had settled on something simple: beef potatoes, vegetables that couldn't be ruined by a man who'd spent more time learning to shoot than cook. "Smells good," she said, stepping inside. "Smells like I followed instructions." He took her shawl. "Don't get your hopes up." But when she tasted it, something in her face softened. "This is actually good, Noah. Don't sound so surprised." "I'm impressed, not surprised. There's a difference." They ate slowly, neither of them rushing toward the conversation they needed to have. Lena told him about the Hendricks' new baby, about Sam at the livery, getting kicked by a horse, about small-town things that mattered because they were shared. Noah told her about work, about the fence line that needed mending, about nothing that mattered except that she was listening. When the plates were empty, she helped him clean up. Their hands brushed at the basin, and neither of them pulled away. "I've been thinking," Lena said. Noah's stomach dropped. "Yeah, about what you said, about needing someone." She dried her hands, turned to face him. "And I realized something." "What's that?" "I'm scared of the wrong thing." "How do you mean?" "I'm scared of staying and losing you." Her voice went quiet. "But I should be scared of leaving and losing myself." Noah's heart kicked hard against his ribs. "Lena, let me finish." She held up a hand. "When James died, I thought I'd died too. Thought the best part of me was buried with him. And then I came here, to your house. And I started fixing things. And somewhere in all that hammering and cooking and just being around you, I started fixing myself too. You were never broken." "Maybe not broken, but I was lost." She stepped closer. "And I'm not anymore. And that's because of you. I didn't do anything. You let me matter." Her eyes were bright. "You let me be useful and necessary and more than just someone's widow. And I can't lose that, Noah. I can't go to Denver and be nobody again." Relief hit him so hard, he had to grip the counter. "So you're staying?" "I'm staying." She smiled, shaky but real. "If you'll still have me." "Still have you." He crossed the space between them in 2 steps, pulled her close, and felt her arms come around him, like coming home. "God, Lena, I thought—" "I know." Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. "But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." They stood there in his kitchen, holding each other like they were the only solid things in the world. And Noah felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Word spread fast. By Sunday half, the town knew Lena had turned down Denver. By Monday, the other half had opinions about why. Noah heard them at the feed store, whispers that stopped when he walked past speculation about what exactly was happening out at his ranch, whether Lena Whitfield had finally lost her mind, choosing a broken-down cowboy over a real future. He ignored it. Let them talk. But when he came home Tuesday evening and found Lena on his porch looking wrecked, he knew someone had said something she couldn't ignore. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing." "Lena." I said nothing, but her hands were shaking. Just town being town. Noah sat beside her close enough that their shoulders touched. "What did they say? Does it matter?" "It does if it hurt you." She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "Martha asked if I was keeping house for you now. Said it wasn't proper. Said people were talking." "Let them talk." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the widow who should be grieving proper." She looked at him, eyes fierce. "You're not the one they're calling desperate." Anger flared hot in Noah's chest. "Who said that?" "Everyone. No one. Does it matter?" She stood, started pacing. "They think I'm pathetic. Think I'm clinging to you because I can't stand being alone." "Are you?" "What?" "Clinging because you're afraid to be alone." He stood too, made her look at him. "Because if that's true, then they're right to worry." Lena's eyes flashed. "You think I'm here out of weakness?" "I think you're here because you chose to be, but I need you to be sure." He caught her hand. "Because I can handle them talking about me. but I won't let you stay if it's going to destroy you. It's not going to destroy me. You sure? Yes. She gripped his hand tight. I'm sure. Then we ignore them. Just like that. Just like that. He pulled her close. Let them say what they want. Long as you know why you're here. I'm here because I want to be. That good enough for you? Yeah. She leaned into him. It's good enough. But Noah saw the doubt in her eyes, heard it in the way her voice shook, and he knew this wasn't over, that the town would keep pushing until one of them broke or proved them wrong. He just hoped they'd have time to figure out which. Thursday brought rain, cold and relentless, the kind that found every crack in a roof and made you remember why people left the frontier for places with civilization and proper shelter. Noah came home soaked through, expecting emptiness, found Lena instead dry and working on something at his stove. Thought you weren't coming today, he said. Thought you might need something warm. She gestured at a pot. Soup, real soup, not your attempt. Appreciated. He stripped off his wet coat, hung it by the fire. You didn't have to. I know. She ladled soup into bowls. But I wanted to. They ate by the fire, rain hammering the roof like it was angry at something. Lena was quiet again, that distant look back in her eyes. You okay? Noah asked. Fine. Lena. She set down her spoon. I got a letter today. From Denver. His blood went cold. What did it say? They offered more money. Said the position's still open if I change my mind. She looked at him. Said I should think hard about my future. And I burned it. Her voice was steady. Because I already thought hard. And this is my future. Something in Noah's chest loosened. You sure? I'm sure. But her eyes were scared. I just wish I knew if I was making the right choice. There's no way to know that. Then how do you decide? You ask yourself what you'd regret more. He set down his own bowl. Staying here or leaving, and you pick the one that hurts less to imagine. Lena was quiet for a long time. I'd regret leaving. Then you already know. But what if nothing? He moved to sit beside her. You can't live your life on what if, Lena. You'll drive yourself crazy. Speaking from experience. Yeah, he took her hand. I spent 5 years asking what if about the war. What if I'd done something different? What if I'd saved more people? What if I deserved to survive when better men didn't? He squeezed her fingers. And it didn't change anything except make me miserable. So how'd you stop? I didn't. Not really. He smiled, sad and honest. But you helped. Made me think maybe what I do now matters more than what I couldn't do then. Lena's eyes filled. Noah. So don't leave because you're scared of making the wrong choice. Stay because it's the right one for now, and we'll figure out the rest as it comes. She kissed him, then sudden and sure, like she'd been waiting for permission from herself and finally found it. Noah kissed her back, gentle and careful, tasting salt and soup and rain smell and everything good he'd thought he'd lost the right to. When they pulled apart, Lena was smiling. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'm staying, for real this time. No more doubts. No more doubts, he agreed. The rain kept falling. The fire kept burning. And for the first time in longer than Noah could remember, the future felt like something worth betting on. But Friday brought trouble. Noah was at the lumberyard when Sam found him out of breath and urgent. You need to get home, Sam said. Why, what happened? Lena's there, and so's the marshal. Noah's heart stopped. The marshal? Why? Don't know, but he rode out about an hour ago looking official. Noah didn't wait for more. He grabbed his horse and rode hard, mud kicking up behind him, rain starting again like the sky couldn't make up its mind. When he got home, the marshal's horse was tied outside, and through the window, Noah could see Lena standing rigid in his kitchen, face pale, while Marshal Tucker talked at her with his hat in his hands. Noah burst through the door. What's going on? Tucker turned. Carter. Good. Needed to talk to both of you. About what? About propriety. Tucker's face was uncomfortable. Got a complaint. Several, actually. About Miss Whitfield here spending time at your place unchaperoned. About how it looks. How it looks. Noah's voice went flat and dangerous. Noah, don't. Lena touched his arm. It's fine. It's not fine. He looked at Tucker. Who complained? That's not important. It is to me. Noah. Tucker sighed. Look, I know you're both adults. Know you're both lonely. But this is a small town. And people talk. And right now they're saying things that aren't kind to Miss Whitfield's reputation. Her reputation's fine. It's not. Lena's voice was quiet. He's right, Noah. People are talking, and it's getting ugly. Then let them talk. It's not that simple. Tucker shifted his weight. The complaint's official now, which means I gotta ask, are your intentions honorable? Noah felt like he'd been punched. Excuse me. Are you planning to marry this woman because if not, she can't keep coming here alone? Not without causing herself real problems. The room went silent, except for rain hitting the roof. Noah looked at Lena. She looked back, eyes wide and terrified. And he realized with sudden clarity that they'd never talked about this, never said the words that would make people stop questioning, never made it official beyond what they felt. We need a minute, Noah said. I'll wait outside. Tucker grabbed his hat and left, closing the door behind him. Lena sank into a chair like her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. I'm sorry. For what? For this. For causing you trouble. For... Stop. Noah knelt in front of her. This isn't your fault. Then whose is it? Her voice cracked. I stayed. I chose this. And now the whole town thinks I'm ruining myself for a man who won't marry me. I never said I wouldn't. Her head snapped up. What? I never said I wouldn't marry you. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. I just didn't know if you'd want that. Want that? Yeah. He took her hands. I'm not James, Lena. I'm broken and mean, and I don't talk right, and I'll probably disappoint you more times than I can count. But if you'll have me anyway, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worth it. Lena stared at him like she couldn't process the words. Are you? Is this? I'm asking. His voice shook. Will you marry me? She made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You're asking because the marshal's outside. I'm asking because I should have asked weeks ago. He squeezed her hands. I'm asking because I love you, and because I don't want to spend another day pretending I'm fine without you. Tears spilled down her face. You love me. Yeah. Since when? Don't know. Sometime between the first bread and the fixed porch and the night you told me you missed me. He smiled through his own fear. Maybe before that. Maybe always. Lena pulled her hands free, and for a horrible second, Noah thought she was about to leave. But instead, she grabbed his face and kissed him hard and desperate and sure. Yes, she whispered against his mouth. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. She was crying and laughing at the same time. You stubborn, impossible man. Yes. Relief and joy hit him so hard he couldn't breathe. He pulled her close, held her tight, and felt her shake with everything they'd both been too scared to say until someone forced their hand. When they finally pulled apart, Noah stood and called out the window. Tucker, you can come back in. The marshal entered looking wary. Well? We're getting married, Noah said. Tucker's eyebrows shot up. That's so. That's so. Lena stood beside Noah, hand in his. Soon as possible. Well then. Tucker smiled, genuine this time. Congratulations. I'll let the Reverend know. He left again, and they were alone. That just happened, Lena said. Yeah. We're getting married. Yeah. She started laughing wild and free. We're getting married because the town forced us to. No. Noah turned her to face him. We're getting married because I asked, and you said yes. Town just made me stop being a coward about it. Her laughter faded into something softer. You really love me. I really love you. Good. She kissed him again, gentle this time. Because I love you too. Have for a while now. Just didn't know if I was allowed to. You're allowed. Then I'm staying. She smiled. Forever this time. Forever. Noah agreed. And standing in his kitchen with rain falling and the future suddenly clear, he finally understood what home meant. It wasn't the house. It was her. The wedding happened fast, too fast for the town gossips to organize proper opposition, which Noah figured was the point. Reverend Matthews agreed to marry them Sunday after service, simple and small, just what they wanted. But Lena stood in Noah's kitchen Thursday night, looking panicked. I don't have a dress, she said. Wear what you're wearing. Noah, I can't get married in this. She gestured at her work clothes, practical and worn. People already think I'm desperate. I won't look it too. Then we'll get you a dress. With what money I used everything I had fixing your house. The words hit him wrong. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, but now you can't afford a wedding dress. He felt anger rising not at her, at himself, at 5 years of not planning for a future that included someone else. What kind of husband can't even stop? Lena crossed to him, put her hand on his chest. I don't need fancy. I just need something that makes me feel like a bride instead of a woman settling. You're not settling. I know that, but they don't. She looked up at him. Let me have this one thing, please. Noah understood then. This wasn't vanity. It was armor. A way to walk into that church and prove to everyone watching that she'd chosen him, not defaulted to him. How much do you need? He asked. $20 would do it. Maybe 25. He had 30 in his tin under the floorboard. Money saved for emergencies, for lean winters, for the disasters that always came when you were alone. He pulled it out, put it in her hand. Take it all, he said. Noah, take it. Get the dress. Get whatever else you need. He closed her fingers around the bills. I want you to feel like a bride. Her eyes filled. This is everything you have. No. He kissed her forehead. Everything I have is standing right here. She left the next morning for Denver. The town's dressmaker couldn't do it in time, but Denver had shops that could. Noah spent the day working himself raw, trying not to think about how she was going back to the place that had offered her escape, how easy it would be to keep going. But she came back Saturday evening, dress box under her arm, eyes bright. I got it, she said. Can I see? Absolutely not. Bad luck. That's superstition. Then consider me superstitious. She smiled. You'll see tomorrow. Lena. He caught her hand before she could leave. You came back. Of course I came back. She looked confused. Where else would I go? Denver. Away from here. Away from all of this. Understanding crossed her face. You thought I'd leave. The thought crossed my mind. Noah Carter. She stepped close, voice fierce. I chose you. I keep choosing you. And tomorrow, I'm going to promise in front of God and everyone that I'll keep choosing you until I die. So you need to trust that when I say I'm staying, I mean it. I trust you. Do you? Because it feels like you're waiting for me to leave. He had been since the moment she walked into his life. Because everyone left eventually died or disappeared or just stopped showing up. That's what he'd learned. That's what he knew. I'm trying, he admitted. Then try harder. She kissed him quick and sure. Because I'm not going anywhere. She left to spend the night at the boarding house propriety finally, now that it was almost too late to matter. And Noah sat alone in his house, trying to believe that tomorrow would actually happen, that someone would actually stay. Sunday morning came cold and clear. Noah stood at the church in his best shirt, the only one without stains or holes, waiting while people filtered in. More than he expected. Curiosity, probably. Or the desire to witness whether Lena would actually go through with it. Sam clapped him on the shoulder. You nervous? No. Liar? Fine. Yes. She'll show up. You sure about that? As sure as I am about anything. Sam grinned. Woman turned down Denver for you. She's not backing out now. But when the Reverend asked everyone to stand and the door opened, Noah's heart still stopped. Then Lena walked in. The dress was simple blue, not white, practical enough to wear again, but pretty enough to catch light. Her hair was down soft around her face, and she carried wildflowers someone had picked that morning. But it was her face that undid him. The way she smiled when she saw him. Like he was the only person in the room. Like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. She reached the front, took his hand. Hi, she whispered. Hi yourself. His voice was rough. You look... Don't cry, Cowboy. You'll ruin your reputation. Too late for that. Reverend Matthews cleared his throat. Shall we begin? The ceremony was short, traditional. Words Noah had heard at other weddings, but never thought would apply to him. Love and honor and cherish. In sickness and health. Till death. When Matthews asked if anyone objected, Noah felt the room hold its breath. Silence. Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Matthews smiled. You may kiss your bride. Noah cupped Lena's face, kissed her gentle and grateful and sure. She kissed him back, and the church erupted in applause, some genuine, some obligatory, but loud enough to drown out any remaining doubt. They walked out together into cold sunshine, and someone threw rice and Lena laughed, and Noah thought maybe this was what happy felt like. Then he saw the man standing at the edge of the churchyard, tall, well-dressed, watching Lena with eyes that said he knew her. Who's that? Noah asked. Lena followed his gaze. Her face went white. Oh, God. Lena, who is that? That's Richard. Her voice was barely audible. James's brother. Richard Whitfield approached with the confidence of a man used to getting his way. Lena, he nodded politely. Didn't expect to see you remarried so soon. Richard. Her hand tightened on Noah's arm. What are you doing here? Heard you were getting married. Thought I'd pay my respects. His eyes slid to Noah. This the man? This is my husband. The word came out defensive. Noah Carter. Carter. Richard extended a hand. Noah shook it, measuring the grip the expensive suit the way Richard looked at Lena like she was property he'd misplaced. Congratulations, Richard said. James would have wanted you happy. Thank you. Though I admit I'm surprised. Last time we spoke you said you'd never marry again. Lena's face flushed. People change, apparently. Richard smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I actually came to discuss something with you. Business matter, regarding James's estate. There is no estate. The house was sold, everything settled. Not quite. Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket. Seems James had a life insurance policy I wasn't aware of. $5,000, payable to his widow. Noah felt Lena go rigid beside him. That's not possible, she said. I would have known. He took it out 3 months before he died. Kept it quiet, apparently. Richard held out the envelope. The company just processed it. Money's yours. Lena didn't take it. Why are you really here, Richard? To help family. I'm not family anymore. You were my brother's wife, and now I'm someone else's. She stepped closer to Noah. Whatever you want, the answer's no. Richard's smile faded. You don't even know what I'm offering. I don't care. $5,000, Lena. That's more than this town sees in 5 years. You could go anywhere, do anything. His eyes flicked to Noah. Leave this place behind. I'm not leaving. Because of him. Because I choose not to. Richard's jaw tightened. James died taking care of you, and you're throwing away his memory for a cowboy with dirt under his nails. Noah's hand went to his gun before he could stop it. Lena grabbed his wrist. Don't, she said quietly. Listen to your wife, Carter. Richard's voice was cold. I'm just here to help her see sense. She sees fine. Noah kept his voice level. And she told you no, so you can leave now. I'm not leaving without her answer. About the money. I don't want it, Lena said. Don't be stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm choosing my life. She pulled the envelope from Richard's hand and tore it in half. Tell the insurance company to keep it, or donate it. I don't care. I don't want anything from James or you. Richard stared at the torn paper like she'd slapped him. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. He's using you. Richard pointed at Noah. Can't you see that he married you for this money? For what you can give him? That's not true, Lena said. Isn't it a week ago you didn't even know about this policy? Now suddenly you're married. Richard's voice turned vicious. You think that's coincidence? Noah felt rage rise hot and sharp. I didn't know about any money. Sure you didn't. I married her because I love her. You married her because she's convenient. Because she cooks and cleans and warms your bed. Because that's what men like you do, find lonely women and use them until someone better comes along. Noah moved fast, grabbed Richard by the collar, shoved him hard against the church wall. People gasped. Someone shouted. But Noah didn't care. Say that again, he growled. Noah, stop. Lena pulled at his arm. He's not worth it. You're right. Noah released. Richard stepped back. He's not. Richard straightened his jacket, breathing hard. You'll regret this, Lena. Both of you. I doubt that, Lena said. Richard left and the crowd dispersed, whispering, and Lena sagged against Noah like her legs wouldn't hold her. I didn't know about the money, Noah said quietly. I swear. I know. Do you? Because he's right that the timing. Noah. She looked up at him. I know. You proposed before he showed up, before anyone knew about any money. I know. But now people will think, I don't care what people think. Her voice was fierce. I care what I think, and I think you're the best man I've ever known. And I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Noah pulled her close, felt her shake with everything she wasn't saying. I'm sorry your wedding day got ruined. It's not ruined. She stepped back, wiped her eyes. It's just real. And real is better than perfect. They went home together, riding side by side in borrowed wagon, and when they reached the ranch, Noah lifted her down and carried her over the threshold because that's what husbands did. Inside, she laughed. You can put me down now. What if I don't want to? Then I'll make you. But she was smiling. We're married, Noah. Yeah. I'm your wife. Yeah. Say it. You're my wife. The words felt strange and good. And I'm your husband. You are. She kissed him. Forever. Forever, he agreed. The first week of marriage was harder than Noah expected. Not because they fought, they didn't. But because learning to share space with another human after 5 years alone felt like trying to speak a language he'd forgotten. Lena reorganized his kitchen, moved things to places that made sense to her, but left Noah searching for his coffee cup every morning. She hummed while she worked, filled the silence he'd grown comfortable with, asked him questions about his day, when he wasn't used to accounting for his time. You're quiet tonight, she said Wednesday over dinner. Just thinking. About nothing important. Noah. She set down her fork. If we're going to make this work, you have to talk to me. I am talking to you. You're giving me words. That's not the same thing. He wanted to argue, wanted to say he'd survived 5 years without explaining himself, and she didn't get to change that just because they were married. But the look in her eyes stopped him. It's hard, he admitted. Having someone here. All the time. You regret marrying me? No. He reached across the table. I don't regret you. I'm not used to this. Neither am I. Her voice softened. I lived alone for 2 years before you. And before that, James was gone more than he was home. So this us being together every day, it's strange for me too. Really, Really? She squeezed his hand. But I want to learn. I want to figure out how to be married to you without losing myself. And I want you to figure out how to be married to me without losing yourself. How do we do that? I don't know, she smiled. But I think we start by being honest, even when it's hard. Okay. He took a breath. I don't like that you moved my coffee cup. She blinked, then laughed. That's what's bothering you. Among other things. Like what? Like how you ask me about my day when nothing happened worth talking about. Or how you want to eat dinner together every night when I'm used to eating whenever I'm hungry. Or how you take up half the bed and I'm used to having the whole thing. I take up half the bed because it's my bed too now. I know that, but knowing it and being comfortable with it are different things. Lena was quiet for a moment. Is there anything you do like about me being here? Everything else. The words came easier now. I like coming home to lights and warm food. I like hearing you laugh. I like waking up and knowing you're there. I need time to adjust. Okay. She stood, walked around the table, sat in his lap. Then we adjust. Together. And you tell me when I'm driving you crazy. And I'll tell you when you're being stubborn. And we'll figure it out. That simple? That simple. Noah kissed her, grateful and relieved. I can do that. Good. She stood. Now where do you want your coffee cup? Where I can reach it. Done. She moved it back to the counter. Better. None. But Friday brought a different problem. Noah came home to find Lena crying at the table, letter in her hand, face wrecked. What happened? He dropped beside her. Who died? No one died. She wiped her eyes. It's worse. Worse than death. Richard filed a complaint. She shoved the letter at him. Says I'm mentally unfit to handle James's estate. Says he has proof I was having an affair with you before James died and that I married you to hide it. Noah's vision went red. That's a lie. I know it's a lie. But he's got witnesses saying they saw us together before James died. And technically they did. I brought him food when he was sick. You helped me with repairs. People saw us talking. Talking isn't an affair. Try explaining that to a judge. Her voice broke. He's trying to take everything, Noah. The money from the house sale, the insurance policy I turned down, my reputation. He's trying to destroy me because I wouldn't do what he wanted. He can't do this. He can, and he is. She looked at him with desperate eyes. What if they believe him? What if they think I'm some kind of They won't. You don't know that. She was right. He didn't know that. Knew the opposite, actually, that courts favored men, that reputation mattered more than truth, that a woman who remarried fast after her husband's death was automatically suspect. Then we fight, he said. With what? We don't have money for a lawyer. We'll figure it out. How? She stood, started pacing. Richard's rich. He can drag this out for years. And even if we win, everyone will think... She stopped. Maybe I should just give him what he wants. Absolutely not. Noah, he's going to ruin us. Then let him try. He caught her shoulders. But we don't give in. We don't let him win because he's got money, and we don't. Then what do? We tell the truth. He pulled her close. And we hope it's enough. But lying in bed that night, Lena's breath eventually evening out into sleep beside him, Noah wondered if truth was ever enough when you were fighting someone with power. And he wondered what he'd do if it wasn't.
Chammerse.
The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. Noah spent those weeks gathering proof witnesses who could testify they'd barely seen him and Lena together before James died, records showing when he'd been gone on trail drives, anything that could counter Richard's lies. But Richard had money for lawyers who specialized in making truth look like fiction. And by the second week, rumors had spread so thick that people crossed the street when they saw Lena coming. They think I killed James, she said one night. I can see it in their eyes. That's ridiculous. Is it Mandi's young wife remarries fast? Turns out there's money involved. She laughed bitterly. If I was hearing this story about someone else, I'd wonder too. You didn't do anything wrong. I know that, but knowing it doesn't make people stop staring. Noah wanted to fix this. Wanted to find Richard and make him take it back. Make him admit he was lying out of spite and greed. But violence wouldn't help Lena. It would only prove Richard right. So he did the only thing he could, stood beside her, refused to let her face it alone, and hoped it would be enough. The night before the hearing, Lena couldn't sleep. What if they take everything? She whispered in the dark. What if Richard wins, and I lose the house money, and everyone thinks I'm a murderer, and we can't stay here anymore? Then we leave. Just like that. Just like that. He pulled her closer. I don't care where we are, Lena, long as we're together. You'd leave your ranch. For you. Yeah. She was quiet for a long time. I love you. I love you too. No matter what happens tomorrow, we'll be okay. He kissed her forehead. I promise. But promises were easy to make in the dark. Morning would tell if they were possible to keep. Morning came too fast and too cold. Noah woke to find Lena already dressed, sitting at the table with her hands folded like she was praying. Maybe she was. He didn't ask. You ready? He said. No. She looked up, eyes red from no sleep. But we're going anyway. They rode to town in silence that felt heavier than words. The courthouse steps were already crowded, people pretending they had business inside, but really just wanting to watch. Noah helped Lena down from the wagon and felt every eye on them. Ignore them, he said quietly. I'm trying. Inside, Richard waited with two lawyers in expensive suits. He nodded at Lena like this was business, not personal, like he wasn't trying to destroy her life for sport. Still time to settle, Richard said. Give me what's owed, and we can end this. Nothing's owed to you, Noah said. That's for the judge to decide. Richard smiled. And I think you'll find he's reasonable about these things. The hearing started at 9. Judge Harrison was old, stern, the kind of man who'd seen every lie the frontier had to offer and believed none of them. He listened while Richard's lawyer laid out the case, Lena and Noah carrying on, before James died, the suspicious timing of the marriage, the insurance money that appeared right when she needed it most. These aren't accusations, the lawyer said. These are facts. Mrs. Carter, or should I say, Mrs. Whitfield, since we question the legitimacy of her current marriage, entered into an affair with Mr. Carter while her husband was dying. She then married him mere weeks after becoming a widow, and when my client discovered financial improprieties, she tore up legal documents and refused to cooperate. That's not what happened, Lena said. Mrs. Carter. Judge Harrison's voice was sharp. You'll have your chance to speak. Richard's lawyer called his first witness, Martha Hendricks, who testified she'd seen Lena and Noah talking outside the general store multiple times before James died. Talking, Noah muttered. That's not a crime. But the lawyer twisted it. And did Mrs. Whitfield seem distressed during these conversations? Well, no, Martha admitted. She seemed comfortable with a man who wasn't her dying husband. I didn't mean, thank you, Mrs. Hendricks. The next witness was Sam from the livery, who confirmed Noah had been in town more frequently in the months before James died. Again, the lawyer made it sound sinister. So Mr. Carter, who you describe as a loner, suddenly started spending time in town regularly, right around the time Mrs. Whitfield's husband became bedridden. He had business. Business. How convenient. By noon, Noah's hands hurt from clenching them. Every witness Richard called told truth that sounded like lies when filtered through his lawyer's questions. And Lena sat rigid beside him, watching her reputation dismantle piece by piece. We need to do something, Noah whispered. Like what? Before he could answer, the judge called for lunch recess. Outside, Lena sagged against the courthouse wall, breathing hard. They're making me sound like a monster, she said. They're lying. No, they're telling truth. I did talk to you. You did come to town more, and I did marry you fast. She looked at him with desperate eyes. How do we prove we didn't do anything wrong when every fact makes it look like we did? We tell our side. And hope they believe it. She laughed without humor. Because that's worked so well so far. Noah pulled her close, not caring who saw. "We're not giving up." "I know." But her voice was hollow. "I just don't know if fighting is enough." They ate nothing, couldn't, just sat in the wagon until the bailiff called them back. The afternoon was worse. Richard took the stand, spoke about his brother's love for Lena, how devastated James would be to see her with another man so soon. He made it sound noble, like he was defending his dead brother's honor, not trying to steal money that was never his. "And when did you first suspect an affair?" his lawyer asked. "When I heard she'd remarried." Richard's voice was measured, sad. "James wasn't dead 3 months. What woman moves on that fast unless she already had someone waiting?" Lena made a sound like she'd been hit. "Your witness," Richard's lawyer said to Noah. But Noah didn't have a lawyer, couldn't afford one. So he stood himself, walked to the front, and tried to remember how to form words that didn't involve his fists. "You said you loved your brother," Noah said. "I did. Then why'd you wait until after Lena remarried to bring this up?" Richard blinked. "I didn't know about the insurance money until—" "That's not what I asked. If you really thought she'd had an affair, why wait? Why not confront her right after James died?" "I was grieving." "For 3 months, while she was alone and struggling, you didn't think to help her then?" "I offered help. She refused. Because you wanted something in return." Noah stepped closer. "You wanted control. Over her life, her choices, her money. And when she wouldn't give it to you, you came after her. That's not— You didn't care about your brother's honor. You cared about his widow being independent." Noah's voice was hard. "And that scared you." "Objection." Richard's lawyer stood. "Mr. Carter is testifying, not questioning." "Sustained," Judge Harrison said. "Mr. Carter, stick to questions." Noah wanted to keep pushing, but he saw it wasn't working. Richard was too smooth, too prepared. He'd practiced his grief, his concern, his righteous anger, and Noah had nothing but truth that sounded weak against practiced lies. He returned to his seat feeling like he'd failed. Then Lena stood. "I'd like to speak," she said. "Mrs. Carter." Judge Harrison looked at her over his glasses. "You'll have your turn. I want it now." Her voice was steady. "Before anyone else tells lies about my life." The judge considered. "Very well. Approach." Lena walked to the front and Noah held his breath. "I met Noah Carter 5 weeks before my husband died," she began. "He helped me carry supplies to my wagon because I couldn't lift them alone. We spoke for maybe 5 minutes. That was our first conversation." "Mrs. Carter," Richard's lawyer started. "I'm not finished." Lena's voice cut sharp. "The second time I saw him was 3 weeks later. James had taken a turn. I needed wood cut for the stove and couldn't do it myself. Sam from the livery said Noah was good with an axe and might help. He came, cut wood, left. We spoke maybe 10 minutes. That's not the affair we're suggesting. I know what you're suggesting. And it's a lie." Lena turned to face Richard directly. "You want to know when I fell in love with Noah. It wasn't before James died. It was after, weeks after. When I was so lonely I thought I'd die from it. When I came home every night to cold and empty and silence that felt like drowning. Noah didn't seduce me. He didn't pursue me. He just let me exist without asking me to be anything other than sad." The room was silent. "And yes, I married him fast. Too fast by your standards. But I'd already been alone, already learned what it felt like to lose someone. And when I found someone who made me feel less lost, I wasn't going to waste time pretending I didn't need that." She looked at the judge. "James was a good man, and I loved him. But he's dead, and I'm not. And I get to choose what I do with the life I have left." "That's very moving," Richard's lawyer said. "But it doesn't change the facts. The facts are that you're trying to take money that was never yours." Lena's voice shook but held. "The facts are that Richard showed up the day of my wedding, not before. The facts are that I didn't even know about the insurance policy until he told me, and I turned it down, because I didn't want anything from James's memory except the right to move on." "You tore up legal documents," I tore up an envelope. Not documents. Not proof. She pulled papers from her bag. Noah didn't even know she had them. These are copies of the insurance policy. Read them. James named me beneficiary, but he also included a clause. If I remarried within a year, the money goes to charity. Not to Richard. Not to me. To the church. Richard's face went white. You didn't know about that clause, did you? Lena's voice was cold. Because you never actually read the policy. You just assumed you could intimidate me into giving you what you wanted. That's not... Richard stood. She's lying. I have the policy right here. Lena handed it to the judge. From the insurance company directly. You can verify it. Judge Harrison read slowly, his expression darkening with each line. When he finished, he looked at Richard with something close to disgust. Mr. Whitfield, did you know about this clause? Aye, that is. Answer the question. No. Richard's voice was tight. But that doesn't change that she had an affair. You have no proof of an affair. You have proof of two people talking in public, twice. The judge set the papers down. And you've wasted this court's time trying to claim money that was never going to you anyway. But the house sale was settled legally, as Mrs. Carter stated at the beginning. You have no claim to it. Judge Harrison's voice was final. This hearing is over. Case dismissed. The room erupted. Richard lunged toward Lena, face twisted with rage. You lying... Noah moved faster, stepped between them, hand on his gun. Don't, he said quietly. Richard stopped, breathing hard, then turned and stormed out, his lawyers scrambling after him. The room slowly emptied, people whispering, and Lena stood frozen like she couldn't process what had happened. It's over, Noah said. It's over. She started laughing, almost hysterical. We won. You won. He pulled her close. You saved us. I didn't know if that clause was real. Her voice was muffled against his chest. The insurance company mentioned it in a letter, but I didn't know if it would matter. You gambled. I had to. She pulled back, eyes bright with tears and triumph. I couldn't let him win. They walked out together into afternoon sun that felt warmer than morning. People watched them differently now, not with suspicion, but with something closer to respect, maybe even admiration. Lena. Martha Hendricks approached, wringing her hands. I'm sorry for what I said in there. I didn't realize. It's fine, Martha. It's not fine. I should have. It's done. Lena's voice was firm, but not cruel. Let's just leave it done. They rode home in silence again, but this time it felt lighter, like something heavy had been lifted and they could finally breathe. But when they reached the ranch, Noah saw smoke. Not from the chimney, from the barn. No. He jumped down, started running. The barn was fully engulfed, flames eating through wood he'd repaired last summer. His horse was screaming inside, trapped, terrified, dying. Noah ran toward it. Lena grabbed his arm. You can't go in there, she shouted. My horse is already dead. She held him back with strength he didn't know she had. And you will be too if you go in there. Noah fought her, but she was right. The heat was too intense, the structure already collapsing. He could hear his horse's screams cutting off sudden and final, and he sank to his knees. Who did this? He asked. Lena pointed. Across the yard, barely visible in the smoke, someone had painted words on his house in what looked like Tar Whore and her cowboy. Richard, Noah said. Or someone he paid. Lena's voice was hollow. He couldn't beat us in court, so he did this instead. They stood there watching everything burn: the barn, the hay stored for winter, the tack Noah had spent years collecting. All of it gone, all of it destroyed by a man who'd lost in daylight and struck in shadow. We should tell the marshal, Lena said, and say what we can't prove it was him. Then what do we do? Noah looked at his house, painted with hate smoke damage starting on the walls, everything they'd built together marked as wrong. We clean it up, he said, and we rebuild. Just like that. Just like that. He stood, helped her up. He wants us broken, so we don't break. Lena looked at the destruction, then at him, and something in her expression hardened. Okay. Okay? We rebuild. Her voice was steel. And we make it better than before. They spent the rest of the day salvaging what they could, tools from the barn's edge, pieces of tack that hadn't caught fire, anything worth saving. The work was hard and hot and smelled like ash and loss, but they did it together. And when night fell and they stood in front of their damaged house, covered in soot and exhaustion, Noah felt something unexpected: gratitude. Because Richard had tried to destroy them, and failed. Not because they were strong, but because they refused to be anything else. We need to paint over those words, Lena said. Tomorrow. Tonight. She looked at him. I won't sleep with that on my house. Our house. Our house. She smiled, tired but real. So help me cover it. They did. Worked by lamplight, painting over hate with whatever they had until the words were gone and all that was left was clean wood and the promise of morning. When they finally went inside, Lena collapsed into a chair. I'm so tired, she said. Me too. But we won. Yeah. Noah sat beside her. We won. Think he'll try again? Probably. Then we'll fight again. She leaned her head on his shoulder. As many times as it takes. Noah kissed her hair, tasting smoke and sweat and determination. As many times as it takes. They sat there in the quiet, holding each other, and Noah realized something. Home wasn't the barn or the house or even the land. It was this. Her. The choice to keep choosing each other even when everything else burned. And that was something no one could take. Not Richard, not the town, not even death itself. As long as they kept choosing, they'd be okay. And they would. They'd keep choosing. Every single day. Morning came with the smell of ash and burnt wood that no amount of scrubbing could hide. Noah woke first, looked at Lena sleeping beside him, and felt the weight of what needed rebuilding pressed down like physical force. The barn, the winter stores, a new horse, money they didn't have for things they couldn't live without. He slipped outside before she woke, stood looking at the ruins, and tried to figure out where to even start. That's when he heard the wagons, 3 of them coming up the road in early light. Noah's hand went to his gun habit, caution, the assumption that more bad was coming, because that's what always came. But when the first wagon stopped, Sam climbed down. Heard you had trouble, Sam said. Word travels fast. In this town always does. Sam gestured to the wagons behind him. Brought lumber. And some hands. The other wagons pulled up. Men Noah recognized from town, the blacksmith, the feed store owner, ranchers he'd worked for over the years. They climbed down carrying tools, supplies. Purpose. What's this? Noah asked. This is us helping. The blacksmith. Tom set down his toolbox. Figure you could use it. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. Tom looked at the burned barn, the damage. Richard Whitfield burned this. Can't prove it. Don't need to prove it. We know. Tom's jaw set. And we're not okay with it. Lena came outside, then wrapped in a shawl, eyes wide at the gathering crowd. What's happening? She asked. Town's here, Noah said quietly. Why, to help. Sam smiled at her. If you'll have us. Lena's eyes filled. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back something between laughter and tears. Why would you help us? She managed. Because what Richard did was wrong, Martha Hendricks said, climbing down from the last wagon with a basket. And because I testified against you yesterday, and I need to make it right. Martha, you don't. I do. Martha set the basket down, food Noah realized enough for an army. We all do. Richard made us complicit in his lies. And then he burned your home. That's not who we want to be. So we're here, Tom said. To rebuild. If you'll let us. Noah looked at Lena. She looked back and something passed between them. Understanding gratitude. The sudden realization that maybe they weren't as alone as they'd thought. We'd be grateful, Noah said. Then let's get to work. They did. The men raised the barn frame while women cleaned the house and cooked. By noon, the skeleton of a new barn stood against the sky. By evening, walls were going up. Noah worked alongside them, hammering and lifting, and trying to process how fast things could change from isolation to community, from enemies to allies, from burn to rebuilding in less than 24 hours. "You okay?" Sam asked during a water break. "Don't know what I am," Noah admitted. "Grateful maybe. That. And confused. Week ago, half these people thought Lena was a murderer. And then they heard her speak." Sam drank, wiped his mouth. In that courtroom, she told truth that made them feel ashamed. Not of her, of themselves. For believing Richard's lies. For not standing up sooner. He gestured at the work. "This is them making it right. By building me a barn. By showing you matter." Sam clapped his shoulder. "Both of you. That's what this is." By the time the sun set, the barn had a roof. Not finished, but functional. Protected. Noah stood looking at it, exhausted and overwhelmed, and felt Lena slip her hand into his. "They did this in one day," she said. "Yeah. I didn't know people could be this kind." "Neither did I." She leaned against him, and they watched people pack up tools, load wagons, say goodbyes with promises to return tomorrow. Martha approached last, hesitant. "Lena, I know I said sorry earlier, but..." "It's okay, Martha. It's not. I should have known better. Should have defended you instead of feeding gossip." Martha's voice cracked. "I lost my husband 5 years ago, and when I remarried, people talked about me too. Said I was disrespecting his memory, and it hurt. And I should have remembered that hurt when Richard started spreading lies about you. But I didn't. I got caught up in the drama of it." "Martha." Lena reached out, took her hand. "I forgive you." "Just like that. Just like that." Lena smiled. "We've all believed lies about each other. Maybe it's time we stop." Martha hugged her, then hard and grateful, and when she pulled away, her eyes were wet. "You're stronger than I ever was," Martha said. "No." Lena's voice was soft. "I just got tired of being afraid." After everyone left, Noah and Lena stood alone in their yard, looking at what had been destroyed and what had been rebuilt. "I thought we'd lost everything," Lena said. "We almost did. But we didn't." She turned to him. "Because people showed up." "They did." "Why do you think they did?" "Really?" Noah thought about it. "Because you told the truth, and truth makes people brave." "Is that what I did?" "Yeah." He pulled her close. "You stopped letting other people write your story, and that gave them permission to stop letting Richard write theirs." She was quiet for a moment. "I like that." "Like what?" "That we're not victims anymore. That we're just people choosing to rebuild." "Is that what we are?" "Yeah." She kissed him. "That's exactly what we are." Ugh. But Richard wasn't finished. 2 days later, Marshal Tucker rode out with news that made Noah's blood run cold. "Richard filed charges," Tucker said. "Arson. Says you burned your own barn for insurance money." "That's insane," Lena said. "We don't have insurance." "That's what I told him, but he's got witnesses who say they saw Noah buying kerosene the day before the fire." "I did buy kerosene." Noah's jaw tightened. "For the lamps, like I do every month." "I believe you. But the judge has to investigate." Tucker looked uncomfortable. "I need you to come into town. Answer questions." "When?" "Now." Noah looked at Lena, saw fear flash across her face before she hid it. "I'll go with you," she said. "No." Noah's voice was firm. "You stay here. Keep working with the volunteers." "Noah." "I'll be fine." He kissed her forehead. "This is Richard grasping. He's got nothing, and he knows it." But riding into town with Tucker, Noah wasn't sure he believed his own words. Because men like Richard didn't give up just because they lost once. They doubled down, found new ways to hurt, made the fight so expensive and exhausting that eventually you gave up just to make it stop. At the marshal's office, Richard sat with his lawyers looking smug. Carter. Richard nodded like they were friends. Thanks for coming. Didn't have a choice. We all have choices. Richard leaned back. You chose to marry my brother's widow, chose to fight me in court, and now you're choosing to lie about burning your own property. I didn't burn anything. The evidence suggests otherwise. What evidence? Noah kept his voice level. That I bought kerosene? Everyone buys kerosene, at twice your normal amount. Richard's lawyer slid a receipt across the table. The store clerk confirmed you bought 2 gallons instead of your usual one, day before the fire. Noah looked at the receipt. He had bought 2 gallons, because the first container had cracked and he'd needed a replacement. But explaining that sounded weak, even to him. I needed extra, he said. Convenient. It's the truth. The truth is that you're a desperate man who burned his own barn to claim insurance money that doesn't exist, because you're broke, and you married a woman who can't afford to keep you. Richard's smile was cold. Face it, Carter, you're drowning, and you're trying to take Lena down with you. That's not, isn't it? Richard stood. She had a chance at a real life, a good job in Denver, security, future, and you convinced her to stay here. For what? A burned-out ranch and a husband who can't provide. Noah's hands clenched. You don't know anything about us. I know she deserves better. You're right. Noah stood too, voice deadly quiet. She does deserve better. Better than a man who uses the law as a weapon. Better than someone who burns people's homes because he didn't get his way. Better than you. Richard's face flushed. I didn't burn anything. Sure you didn't. Noah turned to Tucker. Are we done here? Tucker looked between them. For now. But Carter, don't leave town. We're still investigating. I'll be at my ranch, rebuilding what Richard destroyed. Noah left before Richard could respond, before the rage building in his chest could turn into something he'd regret. Outside, he stood in the street, trying to breathe through the fury and fear mixing together like poison. Someone touched his arm. He spun, ready to fight. It was Tom the blacksmith. Heard what happened in there, Tom said. Heard what Richard's claiming. Word really does travel fast. Fast enough. Tom gestured down the street. Come with me. Where? Just come. Noah followed him to the general store, where a crowd had gathered. The store owner, James Patterson, stood behind the counter looking uncomfortable. Tell him what you told me, Tom said. Patterson sighed. Man came in yesterday, didn't recognize him, asked about Noah Carter's purchases, what he bought when he bought it, how much. He looked at Noah. I told him about the kerosene. Didn't think anything of it. But then this morning Richard's lawyer comes in asking the same questions, and I realized I helped him build a case against you. Why are you telling me this? Noah asked. Because I also remembered something else. Patterson pulled a ledger from under the counter. That stranger he paid for the information. $20, and he signed the receipt. He turned it around. With Richard's name. Noah stared at the signature. Richard paid someone to gather evidence against me. He manufactured it, Tom said. That's what this is. He bought kerosene himself, planted it somewhere on your property, then set the fire. And he gathered information ahead of time to make sure his story would hold. Can we prove that? Maybe not in court, but we can prove he paid for information to use against you. That shows intent. Tom's voice was hard. And we're not letting him get away with it. The crowd murmured agreement. These were people Noah had worked beside for years, but never really known. People who'd let him keep his distance because that's what he seemed to want. But now they were closing ranks around him, protecting him, fighting for him in ways he'd never expected. What do you want me to do? Noah asked. Nothing. Patterson closed the ledger. We're taking this to the judge, and we're making sure everyone knows what Richard did. That won't be enough to stop him. Maybe not. Tom smiled grim. But it'll make him think twice about coming after you again. By the time Noah got home, Lena had heard. Is it true? She asked. Richard's accusing you of arson. Yeah. And the town's fighting back. Noah told her about Patterson, about the receipt, about the gathering crowd. They're on our side, Lena. For how long? Her voice was tight. Until Richard finds something else. Until he wears them down too. He won't. You don't know that. She paced, agitated. He's relentless, Noah. He won't stop until we're destroyed or gone. Then we don't give him the satisfaction. How? She spun to face him. How do we fight someone who has infinite money and infinite patience and nothing to lose? We outlast him. Noah caught her shoulders. We keep building, keep living, keep choosing each other, until he gets tired or bored or realizes we're not worth the effort. And if he doesn't realize that, then we leave. The words came out before he'd fully thought them through. We sell this place. Move somewhere he can't follow. Start over. Lena stared at him. You'd leave your ranch. For you in a heartbeat. But you love this place. I love you more. He pulled her close. And I'm done pretending location matters more than person. This ranch is just land. Your home. She was quiet for a long time. You mean that? I mean that. Then let's fight. Her voice strengthened. Not by leaving. By staying. By proving we can't be driven out by a man who thinks money equals power. You sure? I'm sure. She stepped back, eyes fierce. Richard wants us broken, so let's show him what unbreakable looks like. The investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of Noah working the ranch under suspicion while Lena faced whispers every time she went to town. 3 weeks of Richard's lawyers filing motions and demanding evidence and making everything as difficult as possible. But the town held. Every time Richard's lawyer tried to question someone, they remembered seeing Richard's hired man lurking around the ranch the day of the fire. Every time a new accusation emerged, someone produced proof it was false. The community had decided Noah and Lena were worth defending, and they defended them relentlessly. Finally, Judge Harrison called everyone back to court. I've reviewed the evidence, he said, and I'm dismissing all charges against Mr. Carter. Relief hit Noah so hard he had to grip the bench. Furthermore, Harrison continued, I'm issuing a restraining order against Richard Whitfield. He's not to contact, harass, or come within 100 yards of Mr. or Mrs. Carter. If he violates this order, he'll be arrested. You can't do that, Richard protested. I can, and I am. Harrison's voice was steel. Mr. Whitfield, you've used this court to pursue a personal vendetta. You've filed false charges, manipulated witnesses, and wasted judicial resources. If you continue, I'll hold you in contempt. Richard's face went purple with rage, but his lawyer grabbed his arm before he could speak. We're done here, the lawyer said, pulling Richard toward the door. Richard jerked free, turned back. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Noah stood. You lost Richard. Accept it. I'll make you regret. Mr. Whitfield. Harrison's gavel came down. Leave, now. Richard left, but his parting look promised this was far from finished. Outside, the town gathered around Noah and Lena like a protective wall. He'll try something else, Lena said quietly. Let him try. Tom's voice was calm. We'll be ready. And they were. For the next month, someone from town rode past the ranch every day, checking in, making sure Richard hadn't sent trouble, building a presence that said this family was protected. But Richard never came. The restraining order held. The accusations stopped. And slowly, life returned to something close to normal. The barn got finished. Noah bought a new horse with money the town had collected, refused to call it charity, insisted it was payment for work he'd do later. The winter stores got replenished. The house got repaired. And somewhere in all that rebuilding, Noah realized something had changed. He wasn't alone anymore. Hadn't been since the night Lena first walked into his kitchen. But now it was deeper than marriage or love or even partnership. It was community. Belonging. The sense that this place and these people were his in ways that had nothing to do with ownership and everything to do with choice. One evening, sitting on the porch with Lena watching the sunset, he said it out loud. "I think I'm happy." Lena looked at him surprised. "You think—" "I know." He corrected himself. "I am happy." "What changed?" "I did." He took her hand. "Used to think happiness was something that happened to you, like luck or disaster, but it's not. It's something you build, piece by piece, day by day. And you built it. We built it." He squeezed her fingers. "Together." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat there as the sky turned orange and gold and finally dark. "Noah, yeah, thank you." "For what?" "For asking me to stay." Her voice was soft. "For seeing me when I was invisible. For loving me when I forgot how to love myself." "You don't have to thank me for that." "I do, because you gave me a reason to keep going, to choose living instead of just surviving. You gave me the same thing." "Then we're even." "We're even," he agreed. Spring came with new grass and longer days, and the sense that maybe the worst was behind them. Richard had left town, someone said. Gone back east, where his money mattered more, and his reputation hadn't been destroyed by losing to a widow and a cowboy. Noah didn't care where Richard went as long as it was far away. He focused on the ranch, on Lena, on building the life they'd fought so hard to keep. They planted a garden, Lena's idea something permanent and growing. They fixed the fence line. They painted the house a color Lena chose, something warm and welcoming, that said people lived here who cared about how things looked. And on a warm afternoon in May, Noah came home from work to find Lena sitting on the porch with news in her eyes. "What?" he asked. "I'm pregnant." The words hit him like lightning. "You're pregnant?" "Yes." She smiled, nervous and hopeful. Is this—" Noah crossed the porch in 2 steps, lifted her up, held her close. "This is everything. You're happy." "I'm terrified." He set her down, cupped her face. "And happy." "Both." "Me too." She laughed, shaky. "I didn't think I'd get this. After James died, I thought that part of my life was over, that I'd never have a family or a future or anything beyond just existing. And now you have everything." He kissed her. "We have everything." "We do." She pulled back, eyes wet. "We really do." That night, lying in bed with Lena's hand in his, and the future spreading out ahead of them like open land, Noah thought about the man he'd been a year ago, alone, angry, convinced that isolation was safety and connection was risk. And he realized how wrong he'd been. Because the real risk wasn't loving someone. It was refusing to. It was choosing empty over full, silent, over shared, existing over living. Lena had taught him that, had walked into his cold house with warm bread and quiet understanding, and refused to let him hide anymore. And he'd spent every day since learning how to stop hiding, how to build instead of retreat, how to choose instead of default, how to love without holding back. "Noah." Lena's voice was sleepy. "Yeah, I'm glad you came home that night." "What night?" "The first night. The night I told you I missed you." She shifted closer. "I'm glad you didn't send me away." "I couldn't have, even if I'd wanted to." "Why not?" "Because you were the first warm thing I'd felt in years." He kissed her forehead. "And I was too cold to let you go." "And now?" "Now I'm not cold anymore." He pulled her closer. "Because of you." She fell asleep against him, breathing soft and steady, and Noah lay awake, watching moonlight through the window paint silver across the walls they'd fixed together. This house had been shelter, protection, the place he'd run to when the world got too loud. But now it was more. It was laughter over dinner and arguments about where to put furniture and plans for the baby's room, and the smell of bread baking, and the sound of Lena humming while she worked, and the knowledge that every single day when he came home, someone would be waiting. Someone who'd chosen him, who kept choosing him, who'd fought for the right to keep choosing him until the fighting was done and all that was left was living. That's what they had now. Not survival, not endurance, not the careful management of loneliness that passed for peace. They had life, real life. The kind that hurt and healed and grew and changed and sometimes burned down, but always rebuilt. And they had each other. Noah fell asleep holding his wife, his future, his home, and his last thought before dreams took him was this. He'd walked in to warm supper and she'd whispered she